I'm so excited to have you. We've been talking about this, sharing your expertise and seeing how we can help people. Um, and I've discussed this with you, knowing that you've actually transformed over 50 lives of financial standing of over 50 families. And I'm so excited to have you here, share your wealth of experience with people, and also add value to so many people. Let's meet you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Tommy.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Tomi Oshiemi. I'm a licensed financial advisor and I currently live in the Vancouver area in British Columbia. Um, I have experience sharing about finances, so basically understanding your financial foundation, getting protection, and taking care of yourself and your family and those who you care about. How did I meet Joshua? I met Joshua in one of these situations where he was like, "Oh yeah, I would like to learn more," and just with sharing with him, he found so much value that he was like, "Hey, I would like you to come on my podcast," and it's been in a few months in the making, but I'm really happy to be here. I'm really happy to share over the next 30 to 45 minutes about, getting your money habits right so that you can build financial independence. So thanks, Joshua.
Oh, thank you so much for giving that clarity. So first and foremost, I know people will want the audience will want to know you and more apart from this surface introduction, right? You are in Canada. How long have you been in Canada? What inspired you to go on this route on financial advising?
Okay, so I've been in Canada for 6 years and 3 months.
Wow.
Um, I came here as a student and then continued with postgrad. After that, started working, and then I'm just on that naturalization journey to like becoming a citizen in Canada, right? The Canadian dream. And then for finances and all, I would say I'm a third generation banker. My grandpa was a banker, my mom was a banker. I had experience working in mainstream banking back in Nigeria, and then moving over here, I've done work in like business analysis, telecommunications. But then something just brought me back to maybe what I'll call my calling. And so I'm back independent, but still working as a financial advisor. And the thing is, a lot of people look good on the outside, but when you dive into their finances, when you have those conversations, you realize that people are struggling. And even when they're not struggling, they're not really sure of a path towards like, how they're going to be able.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, probably a glitch. Okay, go ahead, please.
Yes. So just knowing that if you sit down with somebody and understand their own goals, you're not just giving them that one size fits all approach of, okay, yes, you need this and you need this, but hearing what their dreams are and then showing them a pathway to achieving that, it's been a pleasure to work with people and just slowly watch them get closer towards achieving their financial, not really their financial goals, but like those goals that, everything needs money. So those goals, but then helping them set up their money in a way that they can achieve them. Yeah.
Impressive, impressive. Ah, that's nice. Third generational banker. And I think you still in your probably you're comfortable with finances because from your what you just said, you had more wealth of experience over the years in Nigeria, and also from the family, it's more like it runs in the family, right? One of the things I also want us to discuss, but maybe probably you can give a little bit of background. This topic, financial literacy. All right.
Mhm.
It's been said, and probably people kind of have some misconstruction about this topic, about financial literacy. Um, so, what is your take on it? Can you just give a little bit of your own understanding? What would you say financial literacy is like?
Okay, I'm going to get to the explanation, but I'll answer from a story point of view. So now, for most of us, we can speak, we can read, we can write in English language, right? But
Yeah.
what if you went to France, right? Then you would have to like understand the language, the nuances, understand like the little details that make that language what it is in French. And so even though you're like the most educated person up to PhD in English, if you're suddenly thrust into a new environment like in France, you now have to learn how to like speak the language, you have to try and understand it, right? And so that's where you become literate in another language if you take efforts to understanding it. So for most of us, we understand finances from a, okay, I make money, I spend it, what is left over, I put it in my savings account. But being able to understand that you can make your money work for you, understanding the different investment platforms that are available in your country and how you can utilize them to the best of your advantage, right? To the best like profit, or whether it's increase or whether it's achieving those goals, that would be financial literacy. So it's not about I know how to make money. It's about I know how to make money and also make that money work for me. And money is not as good as your current ability to use it. It's ability to leave it for the next generation or even multiple generations after that. So being able to understand how you even make money, understand taxes, understand what your expenses are, understand cash flow, understand just little things about money, like when is the best time to invest in something. Those are the just like five things I've just mentioned now that are related to financial literacy. Hmm.
So you actually touch on some things also. I think probably you'll be throwing more light as we unfold. One of them is talking about generational wealth, right? Most times we also talk about these ideas about this concept of having a generational wealth. You
Yeah.
said it's not about making money, spending, and keeping the rest. More like saving the what is left after your expenses. You should also think about how money will work for you. All
Mm-hmm.
right. So what's the connections between letting money work for you? And sometimes I also hear from, most times when we discuss with you,
Mm-hmm.
financial advisors, you tend to talk about generational wealth,
Mm-hmm.
building more like income streams of income, letting money work for you, and having generational wealth. I still want you to throw more light on that before I will probably start some other questions, but let's address that before I forget.
Okay, so when you ask like maybe the next person, maybe walking down the road or even your group of friends, a lot of people are like, "Oh, I'm doing this so that I can take care of my children," right? For I don't have kids yet, but some of my friends do. And but then in doing that, what exactly are the goals that they are working towards for taking care of those children or their grandchildren? Is all the steps that they are taking today in order to be able to maybe save for their kids to have college fund, or to be able to gift their kids maybe even being able to set up your child when they get married, things like that, when they travel, setting up your kids in that way that they are financially protected will put them in a better position than the average Canadian. So when we now talk about making money work for you, most times you get your paycheck and then maybe you move it to like a regular savings account. That's good. That's already like a first step towards even saving, because a lot of people don't have the habit of saving. But you realize that the percentage in interest that the regular traditional banks are giving you may be lower than what is obtainable if you were to diversify. So maybe your invest in stocks, maybe to save up for a life insurance policy, maybe to invest in even real estate or other tools that are available. That money sitting down in the savings account cannot, the interest rate, which is usually less than 5%, cannot match up with inflation over the next 10, 20, 30 years. So trying to find out what investment vehicles are available. I'm specific about your country or your province, because if you're talking to somebody else in another country, the tools that you're talking about may not even be available to invest in, right? So when you are able to like sit down and think about what is it that you want, a person that wants to have 6 kids will not be planning with like a person that wants to have 1 kid or 2 kids. So in building generational wealth, one of the main principles though will be to start early. If you start saving early, you have the advantage of time. And most times over the years, most investments tend to perform well or even beyond expectation. Typical example would be like Nasdaq. I don't want to go deep into those things except you ask, but like the Nasdaq and the SPX, if you look back over the last 10, 20, 30 years, you can see that they have performed well. So if you put your money like $1,000 in an account, a savings account that's only giving you 5% over the last 30 years, and you put your money into like 1,000, same $1,000 into something that's giving you like 16% historically, you will definitely be in a better financial position than if you had put your money in just the savings account. So dividing your money into things like your emergency fund, your investment amount, also the money for your basic expenses. You can't put all your money in investments when you don't have money for rent, your car payments, your what else do we need? Food, your utility bills and things like that. So being able to divide, let's say you get $10,000 a month, being able to divide this into different goals, like okay, kids' future fees, okay, $100 per child. Was buying our future house, $500 per month, things like that will help you to be able to build wealth faster.
Excellent, excellent. That's very remarkable. One of the things you also probably mentioned is more like building emergency fund, right? Building emergency fund is something that most people how will you build an emergency fund when probably what you earn is not actually enough, right? Sometimes it's more like is this is basic. Sometimes it
Mhm.
takes care of your rent and probably insurance. If you have a car, you buy gas and all that. So you're telling me to probably have an emergency fund. All right. So if probably you want to help someone or one of those your clients you help, so what are the steps someone can use to have emergency funds, and what is the importance of having these emergency funds? So
Okay.
from your own weight of experience, yes.
Okay, so first of all, what's an emergency fund? It's that fund that you have, or the amount of money, whether it's a savings, a current account, or under your bed. It's an amount of money that you have to deal with emergencies that could come up. Breakdown of a car, a child emergency, having to travel back home because your parents are suddenly sick, or even losing your job because some people get their employment terminated, right? So just being able to handle any of those things that come up. And typically, like just in the financial industry, we've advised that your emergency fund should be 3 to 6 months of your monthly income. That means it's able to cover your expenses. So going back to the issue that you mentioned, when people are only making barely enough, I think one of the advice I we usually give is that is there any possibility of career upskilling? Is there any possibility of you finding a better job or another source of income that will help you to be able to start building? So let me say somebody has earns only $1,000 a month, which is just just to be able to calculate. Now, if they're able to save like even $100 for the next 2 years, hopefully they don't lose their job, nothing happens. Then they have $2,000 in like 2025 or 2026 rather that will be able to take care of their finances at least for a few months if any emergency were to come up, unlike if they did not start today. So the most important thing will be okay, if you earn $1,000 a month, your goal for your emergency fund will be $3,000 to $6,000. And then what are the steps that you can take? We go into your financial needs analysis, right? So we're like, okay, how much do I actually make? $1,000. How much is my rent? $200. And my phone bill, and this and this and this, different categories. When you see how much you're spending, you might not realize that maybe you shop a lot, or maybe you what's the name of that thing? You bet, you gamble, you go to the casino every time. Maybe I should increase the salary to like 5,000 because you're probably thinking, what can you do with $1,000? So
It's
maybe
very difficult
yeah,
to believe.
5,000. Let's put it at $5,000 after taxes. So this person is making good money. Um, you slowly realize that you're spending like maybe $500, or you travel a lot, or you order food a lot, or you are dating too many women or dating too many men, so you have to keep up appearances. So all those little things that are like that take your money, right? All those things that take your money, you need to now cut down on them so that you can achieve those financial goals. If you want to buy a car, you cannot be spending like $1,000 on Uber every month. Maybe reduce your activities or use public transit for like the next 3 months so that you can get closer to your goal of buying a car so that you're not spending so much. Yeah. So that's it.
That's impressive. But like this, let's be practical here,
Mm-hmm.
right? I
Okay.
can remember most people or most international students who usually come in
Yeah.
for the first 3 months you see job hunting. Sometimes you don't get to get a job after 3 months or before within that period, but averagely for 3 months people start looking for jobs. And you can see from in Vancouver here or probably
Yeah.
in BC, the average rent you could get if you're lucky probably $800, right, every
Mm-hmm.
month.
Yeah,
So
that's fair.
$800. Um, and getting some jobs to start with, you might just get some for minimum wage, or you do Uber Eats, DoorDash if you have a car.
Mm.
So I kind of from my own weight of experience, right? I remember coming in, trying one or two jobs, applying. I had to do um, delivery, Uber, not Uber Eats this time. I did skip the dishes. I did. DoorDash briefly, but I saw that the mileage and also the gas I was buying wasn't adding up, especially from staying around Cloverdale as at that time. So
Yeah.
it wasn't adding up. I had to get something else to do, another job to do, right? Before I got a customer service role.
Mm.
But this is it. The income you're making is not even enough if you're talking about the minimum wage and
Yes.
giving
So
you.
going into that, like maybe so that I don't lose track of like the question you started with as a student, like as an advisor, right, the Canadian government actually requires, and I don't want to go into like immigration topics, but it requires you to show proof of funds, which is usually like $20,000, which is more
Yeah,
than enough to cover your tuition and then sustenance for a year. Now, if you do not come into Canada with that kind of money, it is your responsibility to find a way legally to make that money. Like, there's no advice we can give you beyond like, oh, why did you migrate, or questioning rather, not advice. Like, why didn't you have the actual proof of funds before migrating? It's very hard for people living in developing countries like Nigeria. However, you should come to the like you should. That's part of preparation, financial preparation. People, if you fail to plan, rather you plan to fail. So if you move to a new country, how many continents over without adequate finances, you're setting up yourself for
yeah,
actually
yeah,
financial
yeah, yeah.
instability.
Why I'm giving this analogy is not because of
Mhm.
not having enough funds. You have enough funds, of course,
Mhm.
but here we are talking about setting up emergency funds.
Yes, so
Yeah,
setting up emergency fund is
you're,
actually a goal. It's a goal, right?
setting up emergency fund. I'm just probably giving an analogy, right?
Mm.
So most of us, we actually before you come to Canada, I don't. I think almost averagely everybody I know paid their fees and
Yeah.
regardless stayed and also are doing well. So, but in a general term, right, I'm talking about giving analogy of probably what you earn. Even people after school, sometimes they are still getting, you're not getting, not everybody has your kind of job. Probably you are earning, I don't know how many figures you are earning, but
Mhm.
not everybody has that kind of luxury of amount, right, for them to want to talk about emergency fund. That's why I'm coming from this context.
Okay, so
So
for people that don't have that luxury, then think of your emergency fund as one of your financial goals, right? Your goal is to buy a house in like 5 years. Then your goal is to build an emergency fund in like 1 year, right? Because you don't have the luxury of, if you make $10,000 a month, maybe you can just be like, okay, I'll put aside 4,000 or 5,000 a month, and then you're just closer to your emergency fund faster, right? But if you're making less, then your goal should be over a year, over 2 years, and be like, instead of you're hearing people say 500 a month, why not start with $50 a month, which you probably can do if you don't attend every concert. Ashake is around, you're going. I don't know the names. Johnny Drill is around. Beyonce is coming. You just have to think of areas where you might be spending so much, and then cut those expenses down for a short time, and also look for ways to actually increase your income, which you can do whether you start a side business, whether you look towards, like, as long as you have your work permits, right, you have access to grants from the government, and it's pretty easy to apply, but a lot of people don't seek out that information, right? So they are not even aware, which is sad. But if you're aware, you can do your research into how you can get started into maybe entrepreneurship, or actually look into free government grants for upskilling, like getting an additional certificate for free sponsored by the government, and just looking for a better job, really. There's no way that you can get to that emergency fund without increasing your income if you are at the
yeah,
local
yeah.
level.
So
Yeah.
what? Yeah. So that brings to mind that you have to actually increase your income. But why I'm saying this is uh, I will, why I'm asking you all this question is I have to speak the mind of so many,
Yeah.
or some people might be having challenges,
Mm-hmm.
and these are possible challenges, right? So if we can tell, if we're talking on this podcast is not for only people who have enough funds.
I get it.
So the idea is to provide solution to people who probably have a lot of responsibilities.
It's going to
So
take time.
Yeah. So remind you, some people come for their education. They still have family back home,
Mm-hmm.
so they still pay bills back home in Nigeria and still pay bills here, right? So that's why probably we need to have a balance of the audience. People will be, this thing will be getting into. So that's why I'm asking some questions.
I want to touch
Standing,
on what you just said about responsibilities back home.
yeah, about responsibility. So
Black,
and there's more expectations. So yeah, there's usually a kind of misunderstanding or misconception. Um, once from families and friends back home, once they see you wear hoodie, walking in the snow,
yeah.
you understand, and taking pictures, or once in a while when you go out and take pictures or make videos, and they feel like this guy is in money, right? So you have lots of money, and probably they too also they want to like ask you for support, right? So apart from your expenses here, you still have some commitments. Sometimes some people have
Yeah.
commitments,
I
whether
want to use
family.
my own personal example, right? So I'm one of the lucky few. However, I'm not unrelatable. Like I can relate to this, right? So I didn't have dependents that are expecting, a lot of help from me. But my younger sisters, just that occasional sending them money, but it wasn't an expectation. But I do have a friend who was obliged to send money home. If not, her family will not be able to thrive. So there's also the expectation of setting that boundary for yourself. There's something called like the trauma of money. Like so when you make money, but then all these dependents are relying on you for money. If, like your parent is on blood pressure medication and literally needs your money. One thing will be the first expectation will be to set a boundary. So like I don't want to like I came in 2018. My rent was like less than $500 for a room, like crazy. I know, and so you have even when you make like $1,000 on a student's paycheck, you have a lot of money, quote and unquote, like leftover compared to what you have in 2024. One thing will be to first establish the boundary and actually have a constant amount that you are sending, because sometimes the fluctuation in the money may set an unrealistic expectation. So if you send $200 this week and you send 300 next week, they will be the ones to call you the next week when you send 150. That was going on. How come you sent less? Meanwhile, you know how you're grinding in the abroad, in the overseas. You know how you're grinding, how money is not on trees, blah blah blah, and you cannot actually meet up. So it's better for you to say, okay, my commitment right now would be $100 per month, which luckily for a lot of people with the exchange rates, right, it's about 100,000 naira a month, and maybe that will go somewhere with your family. And also, don't live a flamboyant lifestyle on social media, because I feel like one of the things is if you perpetrate that all is going well online, then people are want to like say, oh, let's reach out to, like, let me use my name, Sister Tommy or Brother Joshua. He looks to be flying, flued out, cruising everywhere, looks to be living his best life. Meanwhile, it was just one day launch. So if you, and most people know what they're doing with social media, they're trying to create a life that is not right. It's not real, so to say. And then when you're doing that, you're sending a message back home, no matter what you say. So now tell them that there's nothing to give and all. Village people and co, just pray for yourself. So the best thing would be to set that boundary of like, I can only send 150, can only send 200, 300, whatever amount, and keep up with that. If your financial condition improves, then also send that, like you can send more, because for a lot of people, their parents, even their siblings, sacrificed a lot for them to be the only immigrants here in Canada. So it's an honor. It's like respect. It's also a form of love to send some money back. So yes, black tax. Just manage it. You should be able to give back if if your family members have done so much to ship you over here. So yeah, that's it.
It's interesting. Yeah, that's it. One of the things you've actually shared on.
I'm here.
Yeah, so one of the things you shared on is actually setting boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
More like don't create unrealistic expectations in the minds of those who are in Nigeria
Mm-hmm.
by showing a flamboyant lifestyle in Canada,
For
right?
sure.
So, but sometimes it might just be a way from you to get out of depression. But but that's
Yes,
great.
but
It's
there's
just,
a
it's
way. I mean,
just
I post every time. If you can see on my social media, check out Tommy Osheni on Instagram. You can see that I live a good life, but I'm not posting. Even when I'm blessed to have like a glass of the finest wine, I'm not. You know, there's some captions. I don't like. We're millennials, so we know how our age mates post, right? There's a way you post, and you can even say gratitude to God versus like expletives or swear words and oh blah 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 haters, all these like hashtags and things that just are oppressive, but for some people it's a sign that Joshua has cashed out, or let's reach out to him. So there's a way you can post. And also boundaries, knowing how to say no. No is a sentence, it's not just a word, it's like no. Not no, like you don't need to explain, but you need to be able to do so tactfully, like this is how much I can share with you, send to you, and yeah. And also put it in your budget as well. Most people forget that they send home $100, $200 a month, and they're always wondering why they are short. So also put it in your budget, like I'll pay my utilities, I'll pay my rent, I'll send money home to mom and dad. I will pay for internet, my Google subscription, my Apple subscription, blah, blah, blah. Put it as a part of your monthly budget, maybe charity, whatever you want to call it, but it should be part of your monthly financial budget that you actually spend that money. Yeah.
okay. That's nice. Okay, let's give from your own perspective.
Yeah. Okay.
What how much is how much will you say is required to have a quiet and peaceable life? How much for monthly?
Quiet. What is it? Whose quiet life?
Okay, let's say averagely to have a very mm, basic, just for your own expenses.
Mm-hmm.
If you say probably you want to really cut down on expenses,
Okay.
just expenses alone. We are not talking about
Is
uh,
this for Canada, like maybe in Vancouver or
Vancouver. Yeah,
in Vancouver?
yeah, a
Um,
thousand, 1,500.
oh, just for no, because you need to pay for
Just
rent, right?
expenses. Just expenses. Yeah, expenses.
I think it will be closer to 2,000 realistically.
You
And I
see,
can start like we shared accommodation. I'm young, so I live with my friend. We have a nice apartment, and also let's say your rent is like 1,300 based on the average $2,600 apartment. So 1,300, that's already 1,300. We're already getting to 1,500. You do your groceries like $300 a month. You have a reasonable phone bill. So we're at wait, so 1,316. Your phone bill is decent, $50. Um, I don't know if you give offering in church if you're Christian, or you give alms if you're Muslim. So religious contributions. I haven't mentioned internet. Then transit. If you drive, then you buy gas. You pay your insurance. If you don't, you buy a bus pass or a train pass, or you use Uber. So all those things, I'm saying like $2,000. And I know a lot of people don't make that, so they're probably living in a lower price, like maybe basement or a lower priced rental apartment. But $2,000, you should comfortably be able to meet your basic expenses and your maybe one or two, maybe two friends a month have dinner, so you spend like $50 to $100. $2,000 would be okay. Okay,
ideal.
just okay. Yeah.
Okay, so $2,000 would be okay. So why probably I asked that is so sometimes some people might think, okay, I spent that they spend something. What's wrong with me? And probably they are not taking into cognizance these expenses,
Yeah. People
regular
don't
expenses.
think of their like how Google Pay will remove $5, something will
Yeah,
remove 10. You're not even thinking that that's money, but that's
yeah,
fifty
you consider.
dollars.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's by the time you had
The
all
Netflix,
of them. If you have Netflix, yeah, before you
Disney,
had
Netflix,
Apple Music,
Disney, Apple
Apple Music.
Music,
By the time you
Apple
have
TV.
Apple, yeah, by the time you have all of those together, so you begin to wonder, okay, where did my money go to, right? So,
Exactly. It
so
adds up.
you might just have $2,000. By the time the renter comes and take it off, you just see zero, right? So,
Negative, and then you borrow
yeah,
your credit card.
yeah. So which is crazy. So one of the reasons why I asked this is for most persons, some people who are still doing minimal job, probably having minimum wage as pay, still trying to get shifts, right? Some get 20 hours a week, some get not regular shifts, right?
Yeah.
So it's Very, very, but you already throw light on it about having another source of income,
Yeah.
starting a business or getting a better job for you to be able to probably stand financially, right?
One
So
more thing I
that's
want
why.
to add to that is actually cutting your coat according to your cloth. So sometimes because of this life that maybe you migrating over to Canada have seen, like maybe people live in a nice apartment or whatever, you can actually explore living in student accommodation, which is not going to be as a lot of times not up to like 1,300. But if you want to live in a luxury apartment overlooking the water, I currently did an analysis, financial analysis for a student recently. She gets $3,000 from home, or 3,000 plus from home, but she spends $2,800 on rent because she doesn't want to live alone. She doesn't want to live with anybody, and she doesn't want to live with anybody, and she doesn't want to like share her stuff and things like that. So there's also a place of like humility where you realize that this is the growth phase, and that in a couple of years, maybe not even a couple of years, once you're done with school and get a better paying job, you might be able to live in like a more desirable apartments, maybe something that meets up with your standard of living back where you're coming from, maybe from Ghana, from Nigeria, from South Africa. You may be able to get back to that level of living. But if you come in, horns raging, like you're ready to like just, you know, maintain that standard of living, when knowing that there's a huge exchange rate difference and all, it will be more beneficial for you to grow slowly but surely, So look for a student accommodation, look for a shared apartment, grow that way. So instead of spending like $2,000 on the average, even in my building, it's $2,000 for a one bedroom, but then it's $2,400 for a two bedroom. So share for the next few years, grow your finances to even maybe get towards your actual house instead of paying more towards rent, and then you eventually get there. It's just that's why I keep on saying time, starting early, saving, pay yourself first, all those things, those principles. Even if you're earning 10,000 and you cannot save, like pay yourself first, like save 1,500, whatever amount, you're still going to run into the same problems as somebody who earns 1,500 as a student and just doesn't save anything.
Excellent. Thank you very much for carrying that. So on still this note, why I want us to be very practical. All
Okay.
right. Let's assume that I make or this client makes $3,000 in a month,
Mm-hmm.
and all his expenses, including groceries, everything is $2,000.
Mm-hmm.
This person has $1,000 left.
Okay.
What will you suggest he does with the $1,000?
Okay, so the first thing would be to know what that person's goals are. Like that's what I'm always going to say, that you cannot just advise somebody to do all of these things, right? But there's a basic principle, which is having your financial foundation, your financial house in place. So the first thing will be to protect yourself. So do you have any insurance? Do you have any car insurance? Do you have any phone insurance? Are you protecting pet insurance? So are you protecting the most valuable things, the things that matter to you? So that would be the first step to get like any type of insurance for all the things that matter, including yourself. If you travel a lot, get your travel insurance. Then the next step will be to manage your debts. So now, do you have any credit card debt outstanding? If you don't, do you have any student loans? Do you have any, maybe if you have a mortgage that you are repaying, you need to pay towards that, right? Then the next step will be your emergency fund. You need 3 to 6 months of income. If this person has a $3,000 income, right, then they need to have between $9,000 to 18,000. You can see that it's scary to say have $18,000, but if they do this over the next 3 to 5 years, like just slowly building up, they will get to that amount, right? So your emergency fund, and then lastly, investment. So with $1,000, for example, if I know what the person's goals are, I would say that you get yourself an insurance coverage that covers the amount that you make in a year. So that would be 3,000 times 12. So like that would be like your insurance, right? Would be maybe 10 years of if something were to happen to you. So that would be like $360,000 coverage for your insurance, right? If you have a car, obviously pay out for as many months as you can. If you have a pet, have them insured. If you have a phone, I always tell people, why won't you get Apple Care or Google? I know what Google Care is called, right? When you have a phone that costs so much. So get all of those in place so that you don't have to borrow from your emergency fund to be able to take care of that. So that's settled. Then your debt management. If you have a student loan, check what's the minimum amount that you're supposed to pay, or I don't think that this person, let's just assume this person doesn't have a mortgage because their mortgage would be more than $1,000, right? So then you pay off your credit card whatever amount is there. If it's a lot, then we have to develop maybe if it's like $3,000 on the credit card, maybe can you pay off $200 over the next 15 months so that you are done? There'll be a little bit of interest, but let's be putting away $200 every month to pay off the credit card. And then with your emergency fund, we are right now maybe we're at $400 or $500 gone, right? So it's paying off your debts and your insurance. We're trying to build up $9,000 to $18,000 so we can invest like maybe $300 in our emergency fund towards our goal of that big amount of 9,000 to 18,000, and then $200 in investments. So there are different types of investments, whether you want to buy stocks, whether you want to buy shares, whether you want to buy mutual funds or ETFs. So there's something called there are different rules about how you can divide your money. But if you think about that financial foundation, do you have all of those things in place? And then how much can you allocate to it um, without it being stressful for you? Yeah.
Okay, excellent, excellent. So you've really dealt with that. I hope the audience will get value through what you just said. One other things I could also say, um, having emergency fund. One other thing is everybody has a goal of owning a home here in Canada. All right. Apart from people to also owning probably their homes in Nigeria. All right. So let's say in terms of preference, right? Give me an advice. One of these, right?
Okay.
Let's say I have $1 million, right?
Okay.
Should I invest in a home in Canada or in Nigeria?
My first question is why. Like I have to get to like see, you would save yourself a lot of, how would I say, stress as a financial advisor if you understand the person. Like a lot of people are here, maybe they just want to get the passports, but a lot of people are here to establish their lives. So if you're somebody like me that is like, oh, Canada is really the rest of my life, except I moved to like Dubai or someplace else, I would advise somebody like me to buy a house in Canada. My plans to go back home maybe 30 December or vacation maybe or events, life events, funerals,
Mhm.
birthdays, or something like awards, things like that, right? So just once in a while. So I advise you buy a house here where you want to live and you'll be living every day. But if it's somebody like Joshua that his soul is always at home and longing for home and where home is Nigeria for him, I would say is there a way? And $1 million is a lot of money. You don't have to pay for anything really cash in Canada. Why not okay pay $300,000 for your down payment for a house in Canada and then see what you can do with maybe $500,000 for a house in Nigeria, and then the remaining $200,000 use it to actually service your mortgage and continue to live. So my advice for someone like you is still like you're going to be living in Canada. Why not buy a house in both places? And I know you. That's
But,
you as
but,
my
but,
friend. That's
but
you
I
as
would
my
just
friend.
that the accusation that you just accused me, that me like someone more like someone that probably loved Nigeria more, but you traveled to Nigeria more than I
Well,
did.
I like traveling. That's
But
different.
from your answer, we can tell that you are giving 500,000 to Nigeria already, so we know where your mind is.
Yeah,
So
so my answer, no, no, no. My answer is based on the fact that in Nigeria we don't have a good credit system, or like mortgage culture is not there back home. So I know that in Nigeria, maybe $500,000 is a lot. I don't really know, but let's say maybe a house in Lekki, Lagos, right, is about maybe 100 million naira. I don't know, and I'm not able to do the math off the top of my head. 100 million naira, $500,000. I think that's a lot more. I think that's a lot more. But just like you can buy the house because you have to pay cash, you have to furnish it in Nigeria. Whatever that equivalent is, buy that house in
yeah,
Nigeria
yeah.
and pay for a down payment for a house in Canada, and then still keep some money because emergencies happen. Why would you just spend $1 million boom on investments that are not easily convertible to cash?
So okay, so this is it. The response you gave was quite okay and practical,
Mm-hmm.
right? Actually, one of the things you would say is what $1 million we buy in Nigeria is almost a billion, right?
I know
So it will
it's
buy
a lot of
almost
money.
it's a lot of money. So you have properties everywhere in Turkey, like you have decent houses, right? But
Yeah.
$1 million could only buy two condos, right?
And in Vancouver, barely even one, depending if it's downtown.
Yes. So it's just one condo, right? Where you
Yeah,
have plenty houses. So it's probably that's practical where I was looking at it. But you're
yeah,
able to do justice to that by sharing, apportioning the resources
yeah.
carefully.
Because in
So
that $1 million, I even forgot about the kids. Maybe because I don't have. But in that $1 million, you can also remove college funds for like your 3 or 4 or 5 kids, right? So you
yeah,
cannot just put all the money down on like houses, like or on one thing. Yeah.
yeah, that's excellent. So let's take, there was something I saw I saw from the owner of Zenith Bank. He said when he started Zenith Bank, he started with 20 million naira, right? And presently, which was as at that time was $4 million.
Yeah.
Presently, if you say $4 million still has much value, but 20 million naira has actually lost its value.
Yeah.
So if I was to probably save my money, I save my money in naira, even in billions, I'll be losing a lot of money by now.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. So
Inflation, evaluation, and things like that.
and everything like that. So I was also thinking, I said, oh, so if it's possible for me to just borrow this money, don't do anything with the money and save it in dollars,
Hmm.
and later pay the person back in naira, and eventually I'm a billionaire, right? So if you are investing in Nigeria and also in Canada, what are the factors you think we should consider? Most people have families at home, right? So
Yeah.
they really want to have some investment, regardless of their stay here, being settled here in Canada. But they want to have something they can go back when they go home, where they will stay, some
Yeah.
investments, even though it's a farm, it's a bakery, it's fast food. Some people are doing a lot of things, import and export. Some people are doing a lot of things at home. So, if you are to do investment, what will you advise for people in Canada? How do you think they can actually go about their investment?
Okay.
Should they put more of their resources here? All right, but the value of naira is going up now. So should they put
Yeah.
more of their resources here, or they should? What should they do to their investments in Nigeria as a financial advisor?
Okay, so back to your goals. I think that most times when we're investing back home, because it's a developing nation, you should actually think of the value of your investment, the value that your investment brings to that community or to that place, or what that value does brings, what value is added to your family. So for example, if you bought a house maybe 10 years ago in Nigeria and it was 50 million naira, it would have been worth, I think the exchange rate was like 200 naira or so that time. So it would have been worth way more than right now when the house is now 100 million, and based on the exchange rates, like going back to dollars, right? The house is worth more in naira, like now maybe 150 million naira, but the value is not as much when you convert it to dollars. So if you go back to the value, at the end of the day, you wanted to build a house that will take care of maybe your grandma, your parents, and your younger ones. And if it is serving that purpose, if your family doesn't have to ever worry about rent again till they die because you built a house, then maybe you're not too concerned about the resale value of that home. So the investment of building a house for your family back home is worth it. But if you're thinking of, oh, I want to be building houses and reselling and flipping them in Nigeria, yes, you bought them at $100 million today when you convert the money. But when you go back, or 100 million naira, when you go back and convert it in a few years' time, if the naira has further devalued to now like $1,500, 1,500 naira to one, then even though the houses are now worth 300 million, it's costs like you get the value when you convert back to dollars. If you're trying to bring back the repatriate back the money to Canada, the money is now way less. So just think of the value. If you're investing in a farm, you want to do it because okay, farming in Nigeria is lucrative. Don't be thinking of converting the money back to Canada and vice versa. Definitely, the money in Canada holds more power. So even if you invested in something and it gave you 10% return, and you did something in Nigeria and it gave you 50% return because of the exchange rate difference, we're definitely going to see that's the value. Like you're like, was it really worth it having a farm? Well, yes, because in a year you sold 500 pigs or cows or whatever and you made money, but you cannot be thinking of that dollar, like dollar to naira conversion. If it was like USD versus card or card versus pounds, maybe, but the exchange rate is so wide and so um the exchange rate is so like wide, yes, like it's 900 or 1000 to 1, that it will be very hard to convert naira back to the same convert naira or make money in naira that will have so much value in dollars. So if
Okay.
you're going to invest, invest in both countries because the value, the length that you go, like if you invest in Canada in agriculture, you know what you're going to get from it. That money is going to be like 20 times, no, 900 times, right? The value of the money in Nigeria. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't start a farm. It doesn't mean you shouldn't start a school. It doesn't mean you shouldn't start like education for displaced people in the north or, things like that. That's still value you're adding to the country.
Excellent. Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for throwing more light on that aspect. One other things I could also say is that okay, what will you say after your experience of catering for about 50 families? So more like give us what is the common challenges you saw is common with people, and like what was these challenges or common misconceptions that you found in your experience in the industry, the common mistake that people make, and what is the possible solution?
Okay, I think one of the first things will be like fear or shame to even talk about it. I'm religious, I'm Christian, and so you hear a lot of people like when money is like it is well, God will provide. But you can actually sit down with someone who is experienced in order to be able to gain that understanding, right? So there's a lot of shame surrounding money where people are like, if I tell this person about what I'm going through or what I need to understand better, like I don't really understand this terminology, they would mock me or they will look at me in some way, which is not true. Like you need to get that knowledge so that you can put yourself in a better financial position. So the number one thing is actually that shame or fear or maybe shyness. Like you can use any synonym, right? Just being afraid to talk about money at all. And that goes back to like maybe even back home. A lot of people's parents never really sat them down about finances, except for maybe if you said, "Hey mom, I want to go for this excursion," or you tell your dad, "I want to go for this excursion. My school is there's no money." Or, "Oh daddy, come and pay my school fees." And this is from like maybe what I've seen or heard. And oh, maybe daddy, it's time to pay school fees. Oh, and they'll be like, "Okay, I'll pay it next week or pay it 2 weeks time." Or maybe if you grew up like without so much money, then you find out that when they until they like cane you and send you back home before your parents like maybe struggle and make money to pay for your school fees, right? So people who don't really like, they didn't even realize how much hard work their parents were putting in to make that money. They just know, oh, my daddy goes to work and comes back, my mommy goes to work and come back, but not really knowing much about finances, such that when you're grown up and an adult for yourself, you're not even able, you're really like, what's happening with the money that I make, why is it disappearing, and things like that. So yeah, it's fear, shame.
Okay, okay, that's nice. So how did you get people to come out of it from this fear and shame,
Okay, so
and religious beliefs and all that about
yeah.
finance?
So typically, when I have conversations with people about money, I really want to understand them well. And when I'm trying to understand them, I'm asking them a couple of questions like, why? What do you want to learn more about? So some people will, when it's one on one, they can tell you they want to learn more about getting out of debt. They want to learn more. They even want to understand the terminology. Like when you people say, it's like when you people say inflation, what does that even mean? What is interest rates? What can I invest in Canada? And so just asking them the right questions to really understand where their mind is at, whether it's learning more about debt management, understanding wealth, how to like, now that I'm in this country, how can I even pay my kids' college fees? When I ask them those basic questions, I know how to like tailor my discussions to meet their own needs, not just overwhelm them or bombard them with so much information that they're like, oh, I'm in a worse off position than what I even thought. Like now they're even more confused, right? So yeah, it's really great to just sit down with people one on one. The one on one approach really works. Definitely, I host like free workshops and things like that where I'm able to share. And you can contact me through the link that is just across the page right now, like your phone number. And then with a quick conversation, all my services are really free because I believe that, financial education is very important. But when I sit down with you and I'm able to understand what your needs are, what your goals are. Through that, I'm able to create a personalized plan for you that you can work towards and, definitely achieve those financial goals. Yeah.
Excellent. So thank you so much for doing justice to that. Let's say we want to have more like steps or actionable um, steps people could take for them to actually build up their wealth and have a more better financial foundation. So
Mhm.
what would that be? What would that step be like? Can you give us more like five or actionable steps that people can start implementing for them to get a better financial uh, background? Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know if you know about maybe Alcoholics Anonymous and all. You're like, where is she going with this? The first step to accepting that you have a problem is recognizing that the first step to like healing is accepting that there's a problem. So if you sit down, the first thing will be to diagnose your finances. Like, what am I spending on? How much am I making? And how much am I spending? And what can I do better? So when you list out all your income is usually maybe your employer, one thing, right? Or maybe money from home if your parents are still sending you money because you're a kid in college. So one thing will be to list out all your expenses and your income and just understand where exactly money is going to every month. Okay, then the next step will be to see like, do I have my financial house in place? Do I have my protection? Do I have my credit card on that check? Do I have my emergency fund? And am I investing in something? Like for investments, you have your TFSA, you have your your tax-free savings accounts, first home savings accounts. For protection, you have your life insurance, car insurance, pet insurance, travel insurance. For your debt management, you can definitely speak to your banker or just even be sitting down with your financial advisor. What can I do? So first thing is like listing out all your income and expenses. Second thing is, do I have my financial house in place? Number three is actionable steps to get there. So if you don't have everything in place, or if you do, how do you make sure that you pay or you make those savings monthly? Because some people forget to move the money every month. You can set up auto pay, which means that once your paycheck comes in, you know that your $100 has gone to your savings account, $100 has paid off your monthly insurance, things like that that you can just put in place. um what else? I think read more. A lot of people are want like a lot of people like going online. Like when I say online, they like to go on Instagram or TikTok. Yes, there's information there, but why not just even check out like things like, what is my community doing? What is the government doing? What grants are available? What are the current economic trends? And it's like, that's like grown up stuff. But that's stuff that as you're an adult now, you should be getting used to. I used to wonder why my dad or my grandpa watch news every night. But you should actually stay in touch with what's actually happening in your economy so that you can take advantage of it. So read more, learn more, and follow like don't just stick to influencers that just post something that grabs your attention and they're trying to sell an ebook out of it or sell a course or sell something online. And then talk to people in your community, talk to people outside of your community. Like when you talk to Asians, when you talk to like, so I'm black, right? So I have to talk about other cultures. When you talk to like Caucasians, Asians, different people in your community, different races, right? About, what is it? Just learn more about what their money psychology is. You may actually be able to apply those steps as well to you, especially because, for example, Chinese and like Indians are one of like the oldest, are one of the like their communities are very established in Canada, so you can actually learn from them as well on things that like practical steps that they've taken to achieve that wealth in Canada. So yeah, I hope I can. Let me see if I can remember what I said. So the first step is analyzing your finances. The second step is assessing whether you have your financial house in place. The third step will be to, if you don't, then now seek out the steps to actually do them. The fourth step will be to read everywhere, and then also, no, the last one will be networking and integrating into communities around you in order to understand how they are being financially successful. Yeah.
Perfect. Excellent. A
Thank you.
round of applause for you. Yeah,
Thank you so much.
you did justice to that question. I think this podcast or this episode will not be complete if we don't talk about credit score and how to maintain a good credit
Okay.
standing. All right. Before we conclude, can you throw light on that, especially for those? Why I'm saying this is
mm,
This is to add value. I'm not. This is not only focusing on people who know what to do,
yeah.
but we have lots of people coming in as international students,
Mm-hmm.
and they are so good probably with the financial systems in Nigeria,
Yeah.
but or other African countries, right? Whether Ghana and all that. But
Mm,
regardless, when they get to Canada, it's like things are just new. It's from the start. When you try to buy a SIM, they say, "Don't worry, don't pay now. We'll charge
mm-hmm.
you later. We'll charge
You're
you
like, what's
later.
going on here?
We'll charge you later." You want to buy a phone? They say, "Okay, don't worry. Let's see your." So these
Mm,
are some of the things that people who just migrated are probably new to. And if they are not taught on time or they don't know, they might just think of spending everything in their credit card without meeting up with their obligations, right?
yes.
Not because they don't want to, because of this is a new system, financial systems. So can you just throw more light on that?
Okay, so I'll say a lot of developed countries run on a system of credits, right? Which means that your ability to pay, your ability to owe, but also make timely repayments, right? So based on that assessment is what gives you access to a lot of things like property, like yeah, basically property, like owning things, buying things, or even some experiences, right? So your credit score it ranges from poor to like a great credit score. So the goal essentially is to maintain like a good or great credit score, perfect score, because you want to be able to go in to purchase something and you're not given a higher interest rate or you are not even denied the ability to purchase something, not because you don't have cash, but because the system or the countries run on a system of credit. So my first advice about your credit card would be credit card is not free money. When you borrow on your credit card, when you make payments, you have to pay it back. Because a lot of people come and they're giving like 5K credit card, 10K, and they think it's free money because they're tapping and it's working. But you do have the obligation to make the payments back at a certain time or a certain date, right? In order to avoid interest charges or ruining your credit score. That means that if you give this person $5,000, they're using the money, but they're able to pay back by the let me say 28th of every month, right? That's good. Use it, but pay back. When you move over, you're coming from a place where it was only money in your checking or savings that you were able to use to pay for things, like in Nigeria, where I'm originally from. If you don't have money, you sit down. But now here you have a credit card. So when you make those payments, when you make those purchases, you have to do well because and then typical interest rates, even on a what's it called on a savings account, the highest is like 5.25 that I've seen recently. But then on your credit card, when you owe and you don't pay back, you're paying about 19.99 up to even 22% on your credit card. So it makes sense that you should actually repay it in a timely manner. Yeah. So that's just like a brief overview of
Yeah,
credit.
yeah,
Mhm.
that's very true. And to make it worse, if you delay in paying, you also have your credit score go down,
Yes.
which is not a good
It will hurt you when you're trying to buy a car,
when
when
you
you're trying to
buy
buy
do
a house.
anything. Yeah, you try to buy a home and all that. So thank you so much for making it to this
Thank
TGM podcast. This is more like season 2 of the podcast, right?
you. Nice.
So it's I'm very honored to have you here on this podcast. I would like you to share your the best place people can reach you with. Do you this they can reach you here, right? With
You can reach me on this link, and I think when it's finally posted on YouTube, you can also reach out to me on Instagram. Just because I think because I post there, I do have a lot of people reaching out to me also on Instagram. But this will be the best way for me, like work wise, to keep track of the people that have reached out to me and also be able to follow up with them about anything, whether it's understanding wealth, planning for your children, planning for estates. Oh, that's one thing I did not touch on, estate management, like when you pass, what happens when you die in Canada, things like that. Just wanting to know about things like that, education, savings, retirement, what else, and also understanding debt management strategies. So if you reach out to me with this link on the screen, then I will definitely contact you within like 24 to 48 hours. Yeah, thank
oh, okay, that's perfect. Thank you so much, guys. It's nice having Toby here on TGM podcast. I'm very excited because we are going gradually and the content is beginning to come gradually. So we have this series on YouTube at Joshua underscore Larry, or you search for the Growth Mindset podcast with Joshua Olariwaju. Then we still have these episodes on audio format on Spotify at Joshua TGM podcast with Joshua Olariwaju. So thank you so much for tuning in. We wish you all the best. We'll be having series of this kind of conversations and episodes with more and more content. Until then, bye bye for now and see you at the top. Bye.
Take care.